lot of you guys have the ability to change the world with all your actions. And when I was asked to speak, I couldn't turn it down. Born and raised in Riverside, California. I was born actually right down the street. Riverside General Hospital, 1981. I am 40 years old. And my true story started from the day I can remember. From the age 4, 5, 6, and on, where you can actually recollect a lot of your thoughts and your ideas. Growing up in Riverside, didn't happen to grow in the best neighborhoods. Casablanca was my neighborhood, then moved to Orlanza, and then ended up settling by Norte Vista High School. I lived right off of Stover. And if you know those areas, demographically, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm either supposed to be dead, in prison, or heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol. That's just all we knew. And from the day I can remember, my mother wasn't the best, but I knew no different, you know, to the point where by the time I was 9 years old, my mother faked my own death and told the family that she needed money for the funeral. And the way she approached me to make this story happen, or the event happen, she knew I loved the boogie board, she knew I loved to be active, and but we couldn't afford the slick bottom boogie boards, and I couldn't afford a rash guard, so every time I did go, I'd have the soft boogie board that was cheap and literally fell apart after 3 or 4 uses, and of course no rash guard, so you get these big old rashes on your chest, and I was an overweight kid, so you can only imagine. She told me one day when coming home from school, she said, "Miguelito, I need you to do me a big favor. I need you to sleep in the closet tonight." And me, that age, I was like, no way, I'm scared. I'm not gonna sleep in the closet, what am I gonna do? And she convinced me, she said, "Look, Miguelito, if you sleep in the closet tonight, no matter what, do not come out. I'll get you a boogie board and a rash guard." Automatically, I was all right, what do I gotta do? And she put a sleeping bag and set it all up and slid the closet door and left just a little crack and said, "Okay, Miguelito, go to bed." Closed the door behind her, and of course I fell asleep. And then all of a sudden I was woken up by doorbell rings, multiple. And then at one point, then I started hearing people cry, and hysterically crying. And of course, I'm over here curious of what's going on, afraid, did not know what the hell was going on in the other side of the room. And I got nosy and I cracked the door. And next thing you know, I'm seeing my aunts, uncles, even my younger brother crying. And she's telling people that I got hit by a car and that she does not know how she's gonna put me in the ground. So of course, all the family members started contributing money. The next day, woke up, completely did not know what was going on. At first, am I really dead? You know? And secondly, I was like, where's my boogie board? And it didn't even happen. She didn't even give me my boogie board. She faked my own death. Months later, about 2 months, 3 months later, my father found out, my family found out, we had to pick up and move. I lived in every aspect of Riverside County, in the Inland Empire, from Corona to Riverside, Reno Valley, I mean everywhere. And my mom was a person that just did this very, very often. So by the time I was 12 years old, my father decided to disappear. And he disappeared. We didn't know what happened. He actually was a very hard worker, immigrant from Guatemala, and he actually owned a bunch of franchises, Yum Yum Donuts. And that's why you would explain that I was really, really overweight, like a lot. And I love donuts. Nestle Quick donut breakfast, amazing. Okay, so I ended up losing my dad at 11, 12. He disappeared for a whole year. After my mom got a hitch that my dad was actually at the Yum Yum Donuts off of Norco in Hamner, off of Hamner in Norco, it's still there right next to the Stater Brothers. She reconnected with my father. She told us one day when we're getting ready for bed, "Hey, I found your dad, we're gonna go see him." Like, all right, great. Packed the car up, went to go see my father. Of course, they went at it. We were super excited, went to go see our father, finally got to see him, and then she sends us back to the car. They get to address whatever they need to address, and then the following week she told us, "Hey, we're gonna go ahead and, you're gonna go visit with your father. You're gonna stay with him for a couple weeks." And we're super excited, me and my younger brother, because we didn't get to see our father for a whole year. And at the age of 12, we meet in Corona at the main park, right there off the main street. And right next door was the ice shaped restaurant, or retail place. And we went to go get some ice cream, and we weren't playing on the playground. And she finally calls us over and say, "Hey, mijo, you're gonna go ahead and stay with your dad for a couple weeks. I'll come back in and get you guys. Make sure you guys listen and everything else." She gave us all a hug, told us she loves us, and she went on her way. Well, a couple weeks passed, and I can't find my mom. A couple months passed. 6 months passed. A year passed. After that, after a year, we knew that something might have happened to our mother. But she actually abandoned us. She left us there with our father. At this point, we're living right off of Magnolia, right by Shamawa Middle School and Ramona High School, right in between. We're in a 2-bedroom apartment with my dad already remarried again, with 3 other kids, plus me and my brother, and the 2 adults. We slept on the floor. Me and my brother alternated from the couch to the floor because our back did hurt. It does not feel good to sleep on the floor. And at that age, I was introduced to gangs. You know, at that point I was at Shamawa Middle School. I was heavily involved with that whole scene, and unfortunately I did things that I'm not very proud of, right? So, but by the time I was 16, it got even worse. Because at that point, my dad was a heavy drug addict and alcoholic. And he ended up committing a crime that sentenced him to 22 years in prison. At this point, I was already a sophomore in high school. I was at Norte Vista High School. And luckily, my freshman year, I found wrestling. And wrestling has dramatically impacted and saved my life in multiple ways. Because pre-wrestling, I was part of the gang. I was part of the crew. And as soon as I started wrestling, it gave me something to look forward to. It also allowed me to channel all this negative energy to something positive. So when I was 16, my dad got incarcerated, and my stepmother, of course she didn't like us because, you know, when we got pawned off to her at the age of 12, she didn't want us there. She deliberately told us she does not want us there. We weren't planning on staying with them for years to come. We were supposed to get picked up 2 weeks later. So the resentment, the things that happened out of that family was one of those things where, to the point where you come home and the groceries were hidden. They're in the closet. They would put the soda pop away. They would put the bread away so me and my brother wouldn't be able to eat it. That's how much she despised us. So by the time I got 16 and he got incarcerated, come home from wrestling practice, we see a bunch of black bags outside the door. We go to open the door with our key. It's locked. The key did not work. So we're knocking, and at that point, we knew something was up. She finally answers the door, and you know, we ask, "What's going on? Why doesn't our key work?" Well, she said, "Hey, you guys need to find somewhere to go." It's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I can't take care of you. I don't want to take care of you. So you guys need to find somewhere to go." So we did. We packed our bags, me and my brother. But luckily, I've always been a hustler. So in high school, I was throwing backyard parties, anything I can do to make $1, right? Because I didn't get no support from home. So at that point, I already bought my first car. 1972 Camaro, bought it for $850, throwing parties in people's backyards. And that car was a lifesaver. That was my home for the next 8 months. And I ended up still attending Norte Vista High School. My brother dropped out, but I had something to look forward to. I had wrestling to look forward to. It was my outlet. It was the only thing that felt like family. My wrestling coach was amazing. My brothers and sisters in the wrestling group were amazing, and they kept me accountable to myself, but also to the program. And at that point, I was very fortunate to have that in my life versus my brother. He dropped out. The other aspect, we didn't want to tell the school because I've been in the foster care system before with my mother. And if we told the school, they would find out, they would separate me and my brother. Next thing you know, we're no longer together. So we kept it a secret for 8 months until my assistant wrestling coach, Chris Gillespie, found out what was going on. He pulls me out of practice one day and tells me, "Hey, Miguel, we know what's going on." And I said, what are you talking about? I played dumb. And then finally he said, "If you don't tell me, I am gonna have to tell the school." So of course I broke down, told him what was going on. He said, "Look, I asked my dad if he could stay with us, but we don't have any room, so you would have to sleep on the floor." I was like, I was used to that, so it's okay, cool, no big deal. I'll sleep on the floor. It's better than sleeping in the car or bouncing from place to place. And if you guys remember, off of Madison, there used to be a gym called Bally's Total Fitness. Mm-hmm. And as a wrestler, we had a Bally's Total Fitness gym membership. Why? Because we always had to drop weight, right? We were in a sauna suit. That was the only place that had a sauna. So we had a membership. Well, that was my bathroom. That was my shower. That was my outlet. And I went straight to school, and no one ever knew a thing until my senior year in high school. My senior year in high school, I was already 18. finally my student counselor found out what was going on. She tried to set me up with some programs. And unfortunately, because I did not have any parents or did not have anybody to justify or support that I was low income, I got denied grants. And I have all this, and anything that I speak on today, I have validation on. I have a Facebook account, and it's oldies but goodies on the photo album, and I've kept everything since the age of 12. Anything that I would know that one day I would be able to speak on that dramatically changed my life. Everything from high school events, to living out of my car, to the first picture of my car, I mean everything. And if you go there, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. And the reason I'm bringing this up in my story is a lot of it has to do with the power of choice. All of us, we all have a story, right? And the power of choice will determine the actions that we present, whether they're good or bad. And every action has a reaction. So for me, when I was asked to speak in this, I was like, it's like my duty. I have to speak on this. One, I'm from the Inland Empire. I have the Riverside Bell tattooed on my shoulder. And it's because of where I'm from. I will never forget exactly where I came from, because all those things that have happened, I could have gone two routes. The choice could have been play the victim or the victor. And for some reason, especially when you sleep in your car and you can't get much sleep because you're worried you're gonna get mugged, something's gonna happen, you get a lot of thinking. I remember one time crying in my car, breaking down, did not know how I was gonna eat the next day, did not know exactly what was gonna happen. And then I started laughing. And I told him, I started laughing. I was like, one day this is gonna be funny. One day I'm gonna be able to speak on this and motivate other people to basically have the power of choice, to choose differently for themselves. Fast forward, barely graduated high school. I also did not attend college. And I wanted to, but I got denied. I truly did. I wanted to be a fireman, that was the original plan. Then decided that wasn't gonna plan out because I ended up fracturing my ankle in my senior meet in the state championships, where I still won double overtime with a broken ankle, but did not get my scholarship. So they offered a partial to go to Cerritos, couldn't do it because at that point I was working full time and I had my own apartment at the age of 17. I lived right off of Polk Street. And if you know Polk Street, right next to the actual hotel that's there, that's prostitution heaven, drug dealers, pimps, the whole nine. So you can imagine what I saw. That was home. And at the end of the day, I always look back and look like all this happened for me, not to me. And a lot of us have this ability to either fold when things like this happen, or like I said, be the victim in the aspect of what you can do. I ended up graduating high school, barely. Got into commercial plumbing. I figured, okay, great. Look, I didn't get a scholarship. I'm good with my hands. I have an amazing work ethic in my sports and my anything that I could do besides academics. For some reason, just was not my thing, right? I love sports and I did enough to just do what I could. But at the end of the day, I was always a hard worker. I got into plumbing, I had a plan. All right, I'm gonna start as an apprentice, from there become a journeyman, journeyman a foreman, foreman a project manager, and then from there, I'll own my own construction company. 3 years in, I figured out that it just was not for me. I thought I had more to give. There was this, I could not contribute to the world by doing this. Even though I'm building America in a sense. I was doing, by the way, commercial plumbing is from the ground up. I wasn't unclogging toilets, and if you do that, nothing wrong, but it just wasn't my thing. I ended up finding out in the third year that this was not for me. And I decided that, I needed to figure something out. But I had no education and I had no way of doing besides working with my hands. And one day, mentor to this day, I was having a dinner over at a family friend's house. And at dinner table, you discuss your work week. And every week, they would ask me how was work. And I would always complain about it and say how much I hated it and everything else. And one day, this gentleman that I looked up to told me, hey, Miguel, in a very polite way, what the F are you gonna do about it? And I looked at this man, I'm like, one, I've never heard him curse before. Two, I was like, is he challenging me? And of course I'm an alpha male. I'm like, all right, where's this coming from? It was like, you complain, and you complain, and you complain, but you're not doing nothing about it. And I said, well, look, I have no college education. What am I supposed to do? I'm good with these, that's it. It's like, no, Miguel, you need to sell real estate. Again, power of choice. as this man is explaining to me, because I had no idea what real estate is, I said, well, what is it? And he's going on and explaining. As he's explaining, I've had this ability throughout my whole life that the people that I either admire or look up to, they say mimic the great to be great. As he's explaining to me real estate, what it is, I'm looking at him as an individual. Beautiful house, his family loves him, 2 brand new Mercedes outside. His life is actually good. So if this man is telling me I should do real estate, why question it? So I did it. I have this saying, procrastination is death. I didn't procrastinate on the thought or the idea of it because I didn't want to dig my own grave. So at that point, I took my real estate test. 2003, I became licensed. 2003 was the first year I ever made 6 figures. All by the gift of being able to communicate. I'm bilingual, and I'm charismatic. I love people. That's always been my gift. I love to work with people. So I got into real estate, made my first 6 figures at 23 years old. Now you take this poor kid from Riverside with no background, no nothing, right? To making this amount of money, I'm thinking I'm the god of real estate, And unfortunately, it taught me a lot too, Taught me about taxes and everything else. $32,000 in debt at the end of the year. But then I learned how to incorporate, I learned business, I learned the aspects. So real estate taught me a lot about business and actual people. And then from there, by the time I was 27 years old, I made my first $1 million in real estate. In 2009, in the recession, as most of you were part of the recession, if not, you were aware of it, it was one of the worst markets in real estate. While everybody was getting out of real estate, I stayed in. And I went tenfold. And again, communication and the power of choice, to not become the victim of what exactly is going on in our world, but hey, I'm gonna make a difference. Sold 98 homes, and I was really pissed off because I had 3 more in escrow and I was supposed to break 100. Ended up making my first $1 million in real estate, and again, this 27-year-old kid at that time, with no direction, no real mentorship besides the people involved in my circle. By 2012, I lost it all. I overextended myself. I had everything leased. I was, again, the king of real estate. But at the same token, I was running that company that I own, Realty World Associates, with a lot of pride and ego. So it humbled me. Again, going back to humble beginnings. I learned a lot. I had to file bankruptcy. One of the worst things that you could possibly do. Embarrassing. I had to meet my bankruptcy attorney at Starbucks because I wouldn't walk in to the bankruptcy law office. Met him at Starbucks, signed up, and guess what? Ended up learning another valuable lesson about LLCs and corporation. I owned a bunch of rental properties that I had to forfeit over, that I thought were protected. But again, pride and ego. So that's one of the best things that ever happened to me because that's how self-made came about. I had a way of living. At this point, I already had a way of living. I got the finer taste of life. So how do I make ends meet? Again, I'm a hustler, always been. So I decided, okay, I've always been in health and fitness. I've done training before. I continue to do training. I always take care of myself. So why not train people out of the garage? As I'm still doing real estate and building my business together. Built a 3-car garage, sold everything out of it, made it look really, really nice. Epoxied the floors, surround sound, even put an AC wall unit. If you get to know me through social media, I'm OCD and ADHD, so it's like everything has to be perfect. And you would never think that was a 3-car garage. Grew that business within a year, outgrew the business. At that point, I decided, hey, I'm gonna get my classic cars back, because if you get to know me, I built a bunch of classic cars. I love classic cars. 1959 Impala is one of my first. And I decided that I outgrew this. We'll go to a cardio studio place that would allow us to do what we need to do. And we did. But within 60 days, they closed their doors. We had nowhere else to go. So I decided to create a concept because I decided that the health and fitness space needed to change. And I created a self-made training facility based off of helping people in entrepreneurship. Things that I learned throughout my years in real estate, throughout my years in fitness, and how to change the game. I'm one of the first that led basically trainers as independent contractors within the facility of self-made training facility. A lot of people know that if you go to a gym, a corporate gym, they have trainers there, or they're all devalued. And they're devalued because they provide the equipment, they provide the establishment. So they'll charge $150 for the 1-hour session, and the personal trainer gets maybe $18. They keep 70-80% of the revenue. And I thought that was very unjust because why? Health and fitness has dramatically saved my life multiple times. And a personal trainer or a coach is impactful. They either save somebody's life or improve somebody's life. We know if somebody's out of shape and they're dealing with diabetes or dealing with any type of condition, that if they lost weight, they would add a lot more years to their life. That personal trainer motivated another human being to save their life. Or impactful, like it was with my wrestling coach. Changed my life dramatically. I wouldn't be here speaking to you guys, it's an honor to do so. Because who would ever thought I'd be in this position to be able to speak with you guys? And at the end of the day, that was all a choice. I chose what to do to better my life instead of becoming a victim. And all of us now have a choice. You guys all have amazing platforms. Platforms that can dramatically change the world by every single action that you do. You guys are the leaders of the Inland Empire. A beautiful place. I love the Inland Empire. Like I said, I have the Riverside tattoo on the bell tattooed on my shoulder. Why? It's a daily reminder of where I come from and to never forget. So if I can leave you with anything, right? My story, that was the PG version, by the way, okay? Because I know we're short on time. You have this amazing platform, and you guys all have amazing stories. Every story, doesn't matter where you start from, no matter whether you're at the very first tier to the very part of the whatever you call so-called success. Those actions will dictate our future. Every little move, every little thing that you guys do will dictate our future for our community. So when I was asked to speak, I was more than ecstatic to do so, because guess what? We collectively can make a difference in every aspect of the way, especially in the Inland Empire. You know, who'd ever thought that I'd be in a position where I can actually contribute to the law enforcement? I was running away from law enforcement, you know? And to now be able to provide them full gym equipment packages at the Riverside SWAT team, to the San Bernardino Police Department. And I was able to do that with my team and with the company that was started out of a garage to now a national company. We're in 9 different states, 40 plus locations and growing, and then we're about to allocate a huge deal that will put us in every LA Fitness, 736 locations. This poor kid from Riverside was able to make something of themselves by the choice, not playing the victim. And until this day, and actually every day, I know that my actions will make a difference in the world, whether they're small or big. So if I can leave you with anything, I would highly recommend utilize your platform. Social media is an aggressive and amazing platform. That's how these wonderful ladies found me. And the story, like I said, we all have a beautiful story. Share it, because you'd be surprised what you can do to impact people. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do. Motivate and encourage everybody to be better every day of their life. And thank you guys for your guys' time. I appreciate every one of you guys.